Question number 3, Dr. Brad. I would very much appreciate the expression of arc extending from Aristotle through Thomas Aquinas through Darwin to Mr. Doolittle for the record.
Well, the line from Aristotle to Aquinas is pretty clear. Aquinas studied Aristotle, and the inspiration is clear in his work, with Aristotle being one of the most frequently authors in Summa Theologica as philosopher. The line to Darwin is not all clear, but in broader terms, we can see how the style of thinking demonstrated by Aquinas, particularly in Treatise on Law and then applied in treatises on virtues and vices, demonstrate the same type of thinking that then manifests itself in Newton, Bacon, Locke, Hume, and so on to Darwin. Curt synthesizes the work of these people along with Turing into evolutionary computation, and it turns out the resulting idea of natural law, while explained materialistically and naturalistically, matches that of Aquinas surprisingly well. I spoke about that in presentation.
Yeah, I mean, Martin understands this subject quite thoroughly. I mean, to me, it was just a surprise. I mean, it was just a surprise to me. You know, I didn't like read Aquinas and say, I wonder if this is right. It was more that as we worked on the problem, it just became clear that Aquinas had been right. You know, it was just fascinating.
Only preparing for the presentation, it hit me that evolutionary computation is the eternal law.
Yes. So, but that's a hard thing, right? I mean, to come up with. But yeah, I just found it fascinating. I just find it fascinating that Aristotle's a long time ago. Aquinas was a long time ago. Even Newton and Bacon and Locke and Hume were still quite a while ago. Darwin is just beyond living memory, right? Turing is within some people's living memory. We certainly are living through the age of computation now, but it's just fascinating to me that it takes so long to figure out a very hard problem. When I look at that, and I don't know if it would be interesting to see what Martin says about this. Martin, how close were the Epicureans? I mean, if the Greeks hadn't sort of declined, could they have gotten there?
In what specifically? Because their physics and their moral philosophy are two very different things.
Okay.
And physics, that's just Democritus, so just copied it. And he got it right? It's atomistic worldview.
Mm-hmm.
He even predicted that there would be other planets, whereas Aristotle denied all of those things. Aristotle's physics are completely wrong.
Yes.
As for moral philosophy, he gets slandered for teaching hedonism. That is not suggesting pursuit of happiness in that sense, but seeking contentment, which is like a lot better, but it's still not exactly ambitious and heroic.
Yes.
That's why I'm surprised, Curt, when you mentioned Epicureanism, because of the two schools of philosophy from that axial age that I know of, Epicureanism and Stoicism, I don't know much about Stoicism's view on the natural world, but
wait a minute. You're the practicing Stoic among us.
yes, but I don't know that they're like, do they know about atoms or any of those? The Stoic practices are much more around for lack of a better word, spiritual, right? Basically fix yourself before you fix others. And Epicureanism, I have not studied much of, but from what I've heard, it's about like Martin said, about contentment,
Well,
about
it's actually, you know what it is? It's the personal versus the social. Epicureanism, they're basically saying build a community of people you enjoy living a moral life together. Right? It's not as isolating as like the kibbutz or something like that, right? But it was saying, look, this is what really makes most people feel fulfilled in life, and so do that.
It's just being grateful for what you already have and stuff like that.
Yes. Whereas Stoicism is an internally focused thing. It's basically cognitive behavioral therapy, right? I mean, more we've learned about Stoicism and more that we've learned to practice it, the more I've realized it's just behavioral science. It's the best religion of all. The thing is that when Christianity came along, there were groups of people who wanted a Stoic Christianity, which would have been probably good. But there were others who wanted this emotional, passionate Christianity. And so the Epicureans were what originally became the monasteries, because they were set up much like the monasteries. And so the Epicurean, I can't remember what the name of the call for the building was, but the Epicurean households or whatever manors were converted to the first monasteries.
Yeah, of course, it's every school of philosophy wanted a monopoly, but it's a case of different classes having different needs.
That's right. So when I want to correct myself on it, but I have no better way of answering it. Technically speaking, when you say Stoicism, that means the entirety of the Greek and Roman way. Right? So, but when you talk about the history of philosophy, you have Aristotelianism, which is naturalism, whereas you have Platonism, which is literary idealism. And so these are the traditional ways you break this apart. But even if you look at it, and Martin's really good at staying on message, Aristotle's wrong a lot. And the Epicureans were just parroting Democritus, right?
Yep.
So you have to say, is there somebody who had it right? No, I mean they all had pieces of the puzzle, and unfortunately, Stoicism probably should have produced as important a movement as Buddhism. But my view is it's too expensive. It was too expensive to teach. And while appeals to the male, is not necessarily appealing to the female, and or easy for the female for that matter. Not that I think Martin and I would probably have an interesting discussion on whether it's possible to teach women Stoicism. I assume it's true because there's plenty of it in Western history. In other words, that behavior, which is basically military epistemology, that can be converted to a benevolent set of soft virtues. So I don't know if women can be taught Stoicism. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, Francis? Since this is something you know quite a bit about.
I think it's gonna be pretty hard. It probably takes a certain kind of woman.
Yeah.
As with everything, it's going to be on the distribution.
Say that, Martin?
As with everything, it's going to be on a distribution.
Correct. Whereas, you meet those, I tell you about this friend I have, he's pretty far out there, it's still 1972 and there's tie-dye and big posters of brightly colored flowers everywhere. So, and his wife is like barely rational, but it's not like you can't understand her logic, right? And she's incredibly feminine, and it's absolutely a joy to be around her. But I mean, you can't like take any of the crystals and light therapy, and you can't take any of that very seriously. But she's happy that way. Can I interject one off thing? No, do I should say this? No, let's stick on this. Let's stay with this. All right. So have we answered this question? Everybody just question on the arc. Yeah. The arc is just, as Martin said, it just took us a long time to get to evolutionary computation. And it's similar to the progress of mathematics. It's very loose categories to very precise categories, and of things we can explicitly see and count and measure to things we increasingly can't see and count and measure directly. So we eventually got there. We eventually got to the quantum background. I mean, it's pretty fascinating, really, but it's somewhat painful. I mean, to some degree, humans, we're beautiful in that if we work at it, we eventually figure this stuff out. On the other hand, it's like, why does it take us 2,000 years to figure this stuff out? There's some beautiful math in there somewhere, and I don't think we're going to have it until AI is a little farther along, and we can see how long it takes an AI to learn something. Right.
Since I asked the question, I would like to say that I'm fairly satisfied with the answers that have been provided, more than and different than I expected a little bit. But it is the conception of, it's the refinement of thought that we're witnessing in this arc.
Yes.
And our capacity to make articulations about our experiences in a value neutral language, logic, and grammar that is the product of this pathway, that we now have discovered the evolutionary computation as the basis of all of our experience. But it takes 2,000 years to figure that out, because the fish you can't see is water.
Yeah, let's just run with that. How did you say? The point is, the only thing that's odd is that in the end, we had this feeling of this thing called natural law, which is really living in harmony with the laws of the universe. Right, that's what it means. And that includes, though, with humans as well as nature itself. Well, how come that exists in the West and the East? How come it's not with reality in India? And how come it's not only without reality, but in a life after death in the Middle East? And that it never comes to full civilization or fruition in Africa. So what's fascinating is we have this intuition that there is a way to live, and we keep refining it over time. And it turns out that every time we refine it a little bit more, it gets a little more accurate. We found out it's more true. Yet there are always people who want to evade it. So it's kind of beautiful in the sense that we have this intuition or insight that some things appear to work right when we think clearly about them. And then we eventually get to the end, and it turns out that there's no difference between science, morality, and religion. Why is that so funny to me? It's because if they're all telling us the same thing. Well, when it's natural law. Why is that funny to me? You're not
It's one
going to
of
tell
those
me.
ironic moments that you search for, well, humans search for so long
Mhm.
and so hard only to come to the simple conclusion.
Yeah, and it makes you feel stupid. It's like, you know how many those times when you're growing up and you realize your parents were right and it makes you feel stupid, right? Uh, I'm sure you never had that feeling, Brad.
Yeah, that's right.
You never had that feeling, did you, Martin?
Not that I can recall.
Francis snickered, so I don't have to ask you.
Is it? I think it's I think we've stumbled on the philosopher's stone, and it's unbelievable. It's kind of ridiculous, right?
Right. It is. It's so simple. It's ridiculous. Sorry, guys.
It's just really, really hard to figure out.
I think it's. Yeah, it is. It's. I find the humor and the irony of it. It's like it's like when you're looking around the house for your keys, and you're kind of frustrated and you're tired because you look in the house for 45 minutes to find your keys. You lean back against the wall. You stick your hands in the pocket to realize it's in your pocket. It's like that. It's that kind of feeling. Like, oh, what the fuck is wrong with me? Right? It's one of those. It's kind of beautiful though. Brad likes to find the beauty in it.
That's the same feeling I had when I translated Bush from English into Hebrew and discovered it was pronounced shit. The irony of it, and then the shocking revelation when I translated back into English from the Hebrew, and it means bush, thicket, and discourse itself. And I'm like, everything just becomes evident. It's like, wow, that blew my mind. I'll be all right. I don't know if that was before I was studying with you.